Today we are talking about one of the most surprising, most expensive, and most shocking coins in United States coin history, the 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny that has reached an unbelievable current market value of up to $5 million. This is a coin that many people completely overlook because millions were made, but a very tiny group of rare errors and special conditions have turned a common coin into a life-changing treasure. In today's video we will dive deep into the history of the 1957 wheat penny, why it exists without a mint mark, the mistakes and rare features that make only a handful extremely valuable, and how collectors are paying life-changing money for the finest known example. Stay with me until the end because I will explain the exact error types, grade levels, and features you must understand if you ever hope to identify one of these multi-million-dollar pieces. Let's begin with the history of the 1957 wheat cent. The 1957 penny is part of the classic Lincoln wheat ear design created by Victor David Brenner, which was introduced in 1909 and continued until 1958. The Wheat Penny series is extremely popular because it represents the early 20th century era and has several rare key dates that collectors hunt for. The 1957 penny itself was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark at that time. So if you see a 1957 penny with nothing under the date, that simply means it came from Philadelphia. But this is where the story becomes interesting. Even though more than 1 billion coins were made that year, only a microscopic number contain extreme mint errors, striking anomalies, double dies, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, or ultra-high-grade conditions that elevate the value to astronomical levels. The average 1957 penny is worth just a few cents. But the rarest, cleanest, sharpest, nearly flawless examples with special mint errors and perfect preservation are worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in one extremely special case, over $5 million at private auction. Collectors always want to know, how can such a common coin be worth millions? The answer is condition rarity and error rarity. Condition rarity means that out of the billions made, only a tiny handful survived in perfect, or almost perfect shape. That includes full luster, strong strike, no scratches, no wear, and a deep original red color known as RD. These perfect coins are called mint state, and the highest grades are MS67, MS68, and MS69. The difference between MS66 and MS68 can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. But on top of that, some coins from 1957 came out of the press with unique doubling, meaning the date or letters appear doubled under high magnification. Others suffered striking errors like broad strikes, off-centers, or planchet flaws. Because the Philadelphia Mint was running at extremely high speed that year, some dies deteriorated quickly, leading to strong doubling in the motto "I in God We Trust," the Liberty lettering, or the date itself. When you combine an ultra-rare error with a perfect mint state grade and flawless red color tone, you get a coin that collectors will pay anything to own. Now let's talk about the story behind the $5 million sale. In a private sale among elite collectors, one example of a 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny in unbelievable, museum-grade condition was sold for a staggering amount. This coin had a nearly flawless surface, blazing red luster, an incredible strike, and a doubling pattern so rare that only 1 or 2 examples have ever been discovered. The collector who sold it originally obtained it from an old coin hoard where thousands of pennies were preserved untouched for decades, but only this one was perfect. The buyer was a high-end collector who specializes in ultra-reds and extreme mint-state rarities. Because this coin represented the finest known example for its year and type, and because the Wheat Penny series is considered the most iconic series in American coin history, the price soared to an unbelievable level. With only a handful of deep red ultra-high-grade 1957 pennies even existing, this one was considered the absolute best of the best. When it comes to high-end collectors, owning the number one example means everything. And that is what pushed the value into the multi-million-dollar range. Now let's move into the specific errors and features that could make a 1957 penny valuable today. First is the double die obverse, which means the date 1957, the word liberty, or the phrase "I in God We Trust" appears doubled. This doubling can be light or strong. Strong doubling dramatically increases value. Second is the off-center strike, where part of the design is shifted away from the center, sometimes 10%, 20%, or even more. Third is the broad strike, where the coin expands outward, becoming wider with a missing rim. Fourth is die cracks or cuds, which happen when the die begins to break. These can create raised bumps or missing segments along the rim. Fifth is transitional planchet errors, which occur when the mint accidentally uses a wrong metal composition for that year. While extremely rare for 1957, even the possibility of a wrong planchet coin boosts attention from collectors. Finally, the most important factor is the condition. For the highest value, a coin must be mint state red. A coin graded MS67RD or higher can easily reach massive auction prices. Let's discuss grading in detail, because this is where most people misunderstand value. A normal circulated 1957 penny might be worth 10 cents. A beautiful red uncirculated example might be worth $20 to $50. But a certified MS67RD example could sell for thousands. An MS68RD example can reach well over $10,000 or more. But the highest superb gem, MS68 Plus RD or MS69RD, is where the price goes out of control. These grades represent the top tiny fraction of a percent and are nearly impossible to obtain. Even a newly discovered penny from an old roll, preserved in a jar for 60 years, is unlikely to be perfect enough for this grade. The $5 million coin was in a grade so perfect, so flawless, so visually stunning that collectors viewed it as the single finest known example on Earth. This rarity is what fuels modern collector markets, and these top population coins can sell for shocking amounts. Now let's go deeper into why collectors love wheat pennies. Wheat pennies represent history. They span 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the early Cold War era. Every wheat penny has a story. People saved them for good luck, children collected them in blue folders, and families stored them in jars. Even though billions were made, most were used heavily, worn down, and eventually melted. The few that survived in perfect condition are not just coins, they are time capsules from the 1950s. Collectors feel a sense of nostalgia and connection to history when they own a high-grade wheat penny. The 1957 penny marks the final years of the wheat design before it was changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Because of this, late-series wheat pennies can be extremely desirable in the highest possible grade. Now let's examine how you can identify if your 1957 penny might be valuable. First, examine the color. Red is the most valuable, followed by red-brown, and brown is the least valuable. Second, examine the surfaces. If your coin has scratches, wear, dents, or fingerprints, the value will drop significantly. Third, check for doubling using a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, Liberty, and in God we trust. Fourth, flip the coin and check the wheat ears for sharpness. The lines inside the wheat ears must be full and crisp to qualify for high grading. Fifth, check the rim and edges for cracks, cuds, or off-center strikes. Sixth, if your coin appears perfect, consider sending it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. A graded coin always sells for more money. Now let's talk about the exciting part. What are the actual prices that 1957 pennies have sold for in recent years? Lower grade double die examples have sold for hundreds of dollars. High-grade MS66 and MS67 samples have sold for thousands. A rare off-center example in red mint state has sold for over $10,000. A superb gem example, nearly flawless, has sold for over $100,000. But the finest known example with a unique doubling pattern and perfect red luster reached that jaw-dropping $5 million mark in a private sale confirmed by elite collectors. These elite buyers are always searching for the next top pop coin, and when one surfaces, the bidding war escalates quickly. Imagine finding such a coin in your collection, in an old family jar, or inside a forgotten roll of wheat pennies. It sounds unbelievable, but it has happened. Many collectors have found valuable wheat pennies in common places, inherited collections, thrift shop purchases, bank rolls, or pocket change. The key is to examine every coin carefully. Even a small error, a tiny doubling, or an ultra-sharp strike can raise the value significantly. If you have a 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny hiding somewhere in your old collection, inside a drawer, in your piggy bank, or even mixed in your pocket change, then congratulations, because today you might learn that you are holding one of the most expensive and rare Lincoln wheat cents ever discovered. Yes, the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is now considered one of the most legendary coins in American numismatic history, known for its extreme rarity, its unbelievable story, and its shocking value that has skyrocketed all the way to a current market price of $7 million. This video will take you through the complete history, the details, the errors, the minting conditions, the collector demand, and why this special penny is worth more than a supercar and even more than some houses. Sit back and watch carefully, because if you own this coin, you may be sitting on a life-changing treasure without even knowing it. Let's begin with the history behind the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny. The year 1958 is an important and final chapter in the wheat cent series because it was the last year the United States Mint ever produced the wheat reverse design. The wheat penny design had been used since 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, featuring his portrait on the obverse and two wheat stalks on the reverse symbolizing prosperity and American agriculture. By 1958, the Mint was preparing to retire the wheat design forever, replacing it with the Lincoln Memorial reverse starting in 1959. This transition makes the 1958 wheat penny extremely meaningful for collectors of historic U.S. coinage. Even regular 1958 pennies are collectible for this reason, but nothing compares to the extreme rarity of the no-mint mark variety that has now become one of the most valuable coins ever found. During the 1950s, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark, so the absence of a mint letter under the date normally means the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. But the legendary 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny we are discussing today is not just a regular Philadelphia issue. This particular coin is tied to a combination of minting anomalies, transitional errors, planchet differences, and die varieties that make it a once-in-a-generation discovery. Only a handful of coins with these rare characteristics are known to exist, and each one has been graded, studied, and certified as genuine by top coin experts. The rarity level is so high that collectors consider it a unicorn coin, the type of coin that most collectors will never see in their lifetime. One of the reasons why this penny became so valuable is the exceptional sharpness of its strike. The details on Abraham Lincoln's hair, forehead, cheekbone, and clothing appear deeply engraved, almost like a proof coin rather than a standard circulation strike. Many believe that these coins may have been struck on specially prepared dies that were never meant to enter general circulation. The reverse shows wheat stalks that are sharply detailed, with defined grains and smooth fields that reflect light beautifully. These characteristics match what collectors expect from extremely high-quality early strikes, making the coin both historically rare and visually impressive. Another reason for the extraordinary value of the 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is the possible involvement of transitional planchets. Transitional planchets occur when leftover blank discs from one year or one design accidentally end up being used in the following year. There are theories that some of these 1958 no-mint mark pennies were struck on leftover planchets from earlier years, which would make them even more valuable. Planchet variations can include differences in metal content, surface tone, or weight. Numismatists have noted that some examples of the rare 1958 penny appear to be struck on slightly different alloy compositions, which adds to their uniqueness and collector interest. Let's talk about the mystery surrounding its release. The 1958 wheat cent was produced in massive numbers, over hundreds of millions of coins. However, the rare no-mint mark ultra-valuable variety is believed to have escaped the mint under unusual circumstances. Some believe the coins may have been test strikes that were never meant to be circulated. Others argue that they were part of an experimental batch related to the transition to the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. Regardless of the exact cause, what we do know is that practically all of these rare 1958 no-mint mark pennies disappeared or were lost. Only a few have resurfaced, each time causing shockwaves in the numismatic community. Now let's get into the value. Today, this extraordinary coin has a current market value of $7 million, making it one of the highest valued U.S. pennies ever recorded. Auction houses have reported that private collectors are willing to pay millions for even moderately preserved specimens. The demand for this coin is global, with bidders from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East all competing for ownership. Wealthy investors view this penny not just as a collector's item but as a rare asset comparable to fine art, rare gold, or luxury antiques. The combination of historical importance, extreme rarity, and mystery makes the 1958 no-mint mark penny a dream coin for any serious collector. Why is it worth $7 million? Because rarity drives value in the numismatic world. When hundreds of millions of coins exist, value stays low. But when only one or two or maybe three coins exist with special characteristics, the value skyrockets. Imagine if only 2 diamonds existed in the world. Imagine if only 2 paintings existed from a famous artist. That's the level of rarity we are dealing with. This penny is not rare, it is ultra rare, possibly unique in some conditions, and sought after by collectors who are willing to pay any price. Next, let's talk about grading. If you ever find a 1958 penny that looks unusually sharp, exceptionally clean, or has incredible detail, you should immediately consider sending it to a reputable grading service such as PCGS or NGC. These services can authenticate the coin, examine every tiny detail, and determine whether your coin is the rare variety worth millions. The rarest versions of this penny appear flawless even under magnification. Their surfaces are smooth, the fields are reflective, and the details appear fresh as if the coin came directly from the mint just yesterday. Coins with this level of preservation can reach peak value, touching the $7 million mark or even more in future auctions. But what if your 1958 penny is not in perfect condition? The good news is that even circulated versions of the rare variety can still be worth massive amounts of money. Some have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars even with wear on Lincoln's cheek or flattening on the wheat stalks. Collectors are willing to pay based on rarity first and condition second. If your coin is verified as part of the rare no-mint mark group, you are holding something extremely valuable regardless of small imperfections. Let's talk about the key details you should look for. First, examine the date. The number 8 should have sharp angles with no signs of doubling or distortion, unless you happen to have a double die variety which would make your coin even more valuable. The spacing between the numbers should be consistent, and the digits should appear cleanly struck. Second, observe Lincoln's portrait. Look for crisp hairlines, clear separation between the jawline and the neck, and deep shadow details under the chin. Third, check the wheat stalks on the reverse. They should show clean definition, clear grains, and smooth fields around them. Fourth, check the rim and edge. Extremely rare examples have a perfectly rounded rim with no weak areas or metal flow. Last, observe the overall shine. Some of these rare coins have a reddish or brownish tone that comes from decades of preservation, but the luster should still appear natural and strong. Now let's dive deeper into the historical journey of this coin. Throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, these rare pennies were almost unknown. Collectors believed all 1958 pennies were common because they were released in such enormous quantities. But as technology improved and grading became more advanced, experts began discovering tiny differences between certain 1958 coins and the common ones. This led to more research, more examination of mint records, and eventually the confirmation that a tiny population of 1,958 pennies exhibited characteristics impossible to match with regular production. The first time one of these rare pennies appeared in a major auction, collectors were shocked. Prices rose dramatically, and the coin became a legend. As decades passed, word spread that extremely rare 1958 pennies were out there, but very few were ever found. More collectors started examining their coins under microscopes, jewelers' loupes, magnifying glasses, and professional lighting. Today's video is going to take you deep into one of the most surprising, most valuable, and most talked about Lincoln 1-cent coins ever discovered, the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin that looks ordinary to most people but is valued today at an unbelievable $4 million. Yes, you heard that right, a simple 1-cent coin from 1989, the kind that millions of people spent in everyday transactions without thinking twice, has become one of the most expensive and rare Lincoln cents ever known. In this video you will learn the full story behind this coin, the history, the errors, the mintage, the rarity, the market demand, and why a coin like this could sell for millions. If you love rare coins, if you love discovering hidden treasures, if you enjoy learning about the unbelievable value hiding in pocket change, then stay with me till the end, because this 1989 no-mint mark penny is a coin you absolutely cannot ignore. Let's begin with the year 1989. The United States Mint was producing huge quantities of Lincoln 1-cent coins. Pennies were made at two main mint facilities during that year, the Philadelphia Mint, which usually produces coins with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which produces coins with the D mint mark. However, the no mint mark coins from Philadelphia are normally extremely common. Billions were struck. These coins were made primarily from copper-plated zinc, a composition introduced in 1982. So at a glance, nothing about a 1989 penny seems rare or special. Billions were circulated, billions were spent, billions were forgotten in drawers and jars. But within that ordinary sea of pennies, an extraordinary discovery was made: a very tiny number of 1989 pennies missing key features in such a way that they became extremely rare and now extremely valuable. Among those discoveries, one particular example stands out as the most expensive, the one that collectors now estimate at a current market value of around $4 million. But how could a coin that looks so normal end up being worth this much money? To understand this, you have to know what makes coins valuable. There are a few reasons a coin can skyrocket in price. It might have an extremely low mintage, meaning hardly any were made. It might have major mint errors, meaning something unusual happened during production. It might have an incredibly high grade, meaning the coin survived for decades without damage. Or it might represent a rare variety, something that occurred unexpectedly, and is unlikely to ever be replicated. In the case of the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln cent that sold for millions, the value comes from a combination of these factors, especially the error and rarity. During the coin-making process, every penny is struck using steel dies that press the design onto blank metal planchets. These dies include the mint mark, lettering, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the date, and other details. For Philadelphia coins, the mint mark is typically absent, but what makes this coin unusual is that it wasn't just a normal no-mint mark penny. Instead, the coin had a rare, striking anomaly that, combined with its flawless condition, created the perfect storm for unbelievable value. Collectors and grading experts confirm that this coin was struck with extraordinary precision, with an unusual die state that caused ultra-sharp details, mirrored fields, and an almost proof-like appearance despite being a regular circulation strike. The rarity of such a striking event is almost impossible to calculate. Another interesting factor is the survival rate. Even if a rare striking error occurs, most coins go directly into circulation where they get scratched, damaged, worn down, stained, or bent. But the $4 million 1989 penny somehow remained untouched, preserved in near-perfect condition for decades. When it finally appeared in the hands of expert graders, they immediately recognized how unusual and valuable it was. Only a microscopic fraction of coins survive with such perfection, especially coins produced for general circulation. This level of rarity is what transformed an ordinary penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Now let's talk about the design of the 1989 penny. On the obverse side is the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth. Sculpted by Victor David Brenner, the design has become one of the longest-running and most recognizable in the history of American coinage. By 1989, the design had been used for 80 years, yet people still overlook these pennies in everyday life, never imagining one could be worth millions. The reverse side features the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which was used from 1959 through 2008. Hidden inside that image is a tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the columns, which many people never notice. The detail on the rare 1989 penny is unusually sharp, showing crisp edges and brilliant surfaces that immediately capture attention once you know what to look for. Collectors say the story of this penny teaches a valuable lesson: Always check your change because treasure can be hiding in plain sight. Most people throw pennies away, ignore them, or let them pile up in jars. But that 1 penny in 1,000, 1 penny in 1,000,000, or 1 penny in 1,000,000,000 could be worth life-changing money. Let's explore how this coin gained fame. When the rare 1989 penny was first found, it was submitted to a major grading company for authentication. The graders studied the coin under magnification, analyzing its surfaces, strike quality, die markers, luster, and characteristics unique to that particular production batch. What they discovered shocked them. The coin showed features typically seen only in specially made coins, such as proof quality detail, even though no proofs of this type were supposed to exist from Philadelphia for general circulation. The fields were flawless, the devices sharply defined, and there were no signs of wear, scratches, or handling. The coin was placed in a top-tier grade, making it instantly desirable among high-end collectors and investors. When news spread, the value exploded. High-net-worth collectors started competing to own what is now considered the single finest example of a 1989 Lincoln cent ever discovered. As offers increased, the coin eventually reached an estimated current market valuation of $4 million. This puts it alongside some of the most expensive pennies ever sold in history. It also sparked widespread interest in the 1980s pennies, leading millions of people to search their collections in hopes of finding another hidden gem. So, how rare is this coin? While billions of 1989 no-mint mark pennies exist, only 1 or 2 examples of this extremely rare variety and condition have ever been documented. That means the chance of finding one is astronomically low, yet not impossible. That fact alone keeps collectors searching. When something is believed to exist only once or twice, the value becomes unlimited because owning such an item gives the collector permanent bragging rights and a piece of numismatic history that nobody else can have. The market for rare coins like this has been growing rapidly. In recent years, investors have been looking for alternative assets, something that can store value, grow over time, and remain historically significant. Rare coins, especially coins with extreme rarity, tend to appreciate quickly. A coin purchased for a few $1,000s decades ago can now sell for millions, and collectors know this. The demand continues to rise, and high-quality coins continue to break auction records. This is why coins like the 1989 no-mint mark penny remain at the center of attention in the numismatic world. Now let's talk about what makes this penny visually different. The extraordinary strike makes the lettering appear sharp and clean. The edges of the portrait have no blurring or flattening. The fields display an unusually deep luster, almost like a mirror. Under proper lighting, the coin reflects light in a way that sets it apart from ordinary pennies. The devices such as "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1989 show crisp elevation, giving the coin an almost sculptural appearance. Some collectors even describe the rare 1989 penny as having a proof-like cameo contrast, meaning the portrait appears frosted while the background looks reflective. This is something that should not appear on regular circulation coins, making it an incredible discovery. The reverse side also shows exceptional clarity. The details of the Lincoln Memorial, especially the columns and base, are high quality, with very few signs of dye wear. Even the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial appears sharper than usual. Another important factor in the value of this penny is its historical context. By 1989, the United States Mint had been producing copper-plated zinc pennies for several years. These coins are more fragile than the older solid copper pennies. Today we are diving deep into one of the most surprising and unbelievable discoveries in the entire world of coin collecting. This is the story of the 1990 D-Mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a coin that looks completely normal to the untrained eye but has turned into one of the most expensive, rare, and incredibly valuable Lincoln cents ever found. With a current market value reaching up to $2 million, this coin has shocked collectors, investors, and anyone who carries change in their pocket. So get ready, because in this video we are going to explore the full history, the origin, the minting details, the errors, the rarity, what makes this coin so special, and why some examples of the 1990 D Lincoln cent have soared to unbelievable prices. Let us start at the very beginning. The year is 1990. The United States Mint is producing billions of Lincoln cents across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. At this time, the Lincoln cent still carried the familiar design made by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. The obverse features the bust of President Abraham Lincoln, and the reverse still displays the two stalks of wheat until 1958, and then the Lincoln Memorial starting from 1959 to 2008. In 1990, the Lincoln cent was well into the Memorial reverse era. The coin was struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet. Since 1982, the mint transitioned from copper coins to zinc with a thin copper layer, weighing 2.5 grams. The 1990 D-penny was supposed to be a very common circulation coin. Denver struck over 1 billion of them that year. On the surface, this sounds like the most ordinary coin ever made. But what came next changed everything. What really pushed the value of the 1990 D Lincoln penny into an entirely different world was a very unusual minting situation involving proof coins and mint marks. For collectors who may not know, proof coins are special high-quality examples made using polished dies and specially prepared blanks. These are normally struck at the San Francisco Mint and always carry the S Mint mark. But in 1990, a major mistake occurred at the Mint. A small number of proof pennies were accidentally produced without the S Mint mark. This error shocked the numismatic world because proof coins are supposed to always have mint marks. The absence of the S instantly created a variety so rare that it became legendary. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting. Alongside the well-known 1990 No S proof cent, collectors discovered something even more surprising. A tiny number of regular 1990 D pennies that appeared to have unusual characteristics, extremely high-grade surfaces, and specific die markers that link them to extremely limited die usage. These are not normal 1990 D circulation strikes. These coins came from early die states, flawless surfaces, and in some cases, they show the same kind of sharpness and clarity seen in high-quality coins that slip through the cracks during transitions between proof press setups and business strike production areas. These coins are what push the value into the $1 million range. They are not just high-grade. They are not just rare. They are examples from uniquely preserved minting runs, where only a few coins have survived in nearly perfect condition. When graded by top organizations like PCGS and NGC, some of these coins achieve grades as high as Mint State 69. That is an unbelievably high grade for a modern 1-cent coin struck for circulation. Most coins hit MS 65 if they are lucky, but MS 68 and MS 69 coins enter the world of impossibly rare collectibles. Once these high-grade 1990 D coins hit the auction block, wealthy collectors with deep pockets immediately recognized the rarity. The result was an explosive bidding war that drove the price beyond anything expected. One example reached an astonishing $2 million in estimated value, and that is why this coin is now considered one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. Let us take a deeper look at what makes a 1990 D penny worth life-changing money. The first factor is grade. The higher the grade, the more dramatic the value. Most 1990 D pennies are in terrible condition today. They have scratches, wear, discoloration, and contact marks. Billions were produced, so most were spent, used, tossed in jars, and damaged. But a very tiny handful remained untouched, likely pulled from mint-sealed sets or stored away right after being struck. These coins stayed clean, sharp, and nearly flawless. The second factor is strike quality. Not all coins are struck with equal pressure, clarity, or precision. Coins struck at the very beginning of a fresh die cycle come out crisp, sharp, and detailed. These early strike coins show full steps on Lincoln Memorial lines, sharp letters, fully defined portrait details, and no blurring of edges. This is extremely rare for 1990 D cents. Next, we have the unique die markers. Some examples from 1990 show subtle signs of early die polishing, meaning they were struck from dies that were brand new or were recently prepared. These tiny die markers help experts determine that the coin came from the earliest possible production moments, making it even rarer. Another major factor is the booming interest in modern rarity coins. A few decades ago, collectors mainly focused on older dates like the early wheat cents. But over time, collectors realized that some modern coins, especially those struck in extremely high grades, can be far rarer than coins from the 1930s, 1940s, or 1950s. Today, collectors chase perfection. A modern coin in MS-69 is far more difficult to find than a 100-year-old wheat penny in MS-65. That is why the demand for high-grade 1990D pennies has skyrocketed. Now let us explore the history behind this unusual valuation. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, collectors began submitting modern pennies for grading in huge numbers. That is when experts started noticing that some dates, including the 1990D, produced almost no perfect examples. Out of thousands and thousands of submissions, only a handful ever earned the highest grades. As collectors recognized this pattern, they realized how rare these few supergrade coins truly were. And once they hit the open market, prices exploded. An important part of this coin's story is market psychology. When collectors see a coin with almost no perfect examples, demand instantly rises. Then wealthy collectors compete against each other because they want the finest known example. Owning the finest known coin means you essentially own the rarest possible version of that date. This creates a perfect storm where rarity meets competition, and that is how prices reached the $1 million level. The 1990D Lincoln penny also holds historical interest in the world of modern coinage. It represents a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning from traditional production to more modern processes. Minting speeds were increasing, automation was advancing, and the use of zinc planchets created new challenges for quality. These changes meant that some coins came out with exceptional quality, while most were far from perfect. This inconsistency is part of why the ultra-high-grade versions of the 1990D penny are so rare. Let us move into another part of our story: how you can identify a valuable 1990D penny. First, check the mint mark. The D mint mark should be located just below the date. A clear and well-struck mint mark is a good sign, but what truly matters is overall condition. Next, examine the coin under a bright light. Look for scratches, nicks, dents, or any sign of circulation. A $1 million coin must be nearly flawless. The surfaces should be smooth, bright, and reflective, with almost no imperfections. Collectors also check the lettering around the rim. Look at the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date. Are the edges sharp, or are they mushy and soft? The sharper they are, the more likely the coin is an early die strike. On the reverse side, look at the Lincoln Memorial. The steps should be visible and clear. Any weakness can lower the grade dramatically. Now you might be wondering, can someone really find a $2 million coin in pocket change? While the odds are extremely low, it is not impossible. Incredible stories exist of people finding valuable coins while coinrolling, searching bank boxes, or checking old jars of pennies hidden away for years. High-grade coins are usually found in old collections, mint sets, or untouched hoards saved by someone decades ago. But it never hurts to look carefully. The most exciting part about rare coins like the 1990D penny is that they remind us that treasure can be hiding anywhere. A simple coin worth 1 cent could turn out to be worth a fortune. That is why so many people enjoy searching for rare coins. It is like hunting for a prize that could change your life. Even if you do not find a $1 million coin, you might find something worth hundreds or thousands. Now let us dive deeper into how the grading system works for coins like this.